Dianion, one of the 4 flying heroes in Kingdom Rush Vengeance, 5 if you count Doomtank, can sometimes be overlooked by some, including myself. Iceclaw and Merglin are both just so OP, and are much better than him, and Barrisat sometimes just looks cooler. But is Dianion really that much worse than the 2 OP flying assholes of this game? Today I'll be going through an in-depth review and analysis of this hero, and then my final thoughts. First, let's talk about his stats. His base stats are pretty alright for a flying hero. He has a super unique basic attack, as when you fully upgrade his skill Lord of the Storm, he can target up to 4 enemies with his basic attack. Additionally, his basic attack stun enemies for 0.75 seconds. The damage on it is solid, dealing 21 to 49 magic damage at max level, and has a 2-second attack speed per enemy targeted. So overall, it can have a whopping 70 magic DPS. There are very few other heroes in the game with a basic attack DPS that can overcome Dianion's, being Wilbur, Faustus, and King Dinas. Dianion has a super slow movement speed for sure, but what negates that is that when Dianion is moving, he's able to attack enemies. This is insanely OP in practice, as he's almost always able to retain the 70 DPS as long as enemies are nearby. But this doesn't cover the extent to which why Dianion is so OP. The rest of Dianion's normal skills are pretty meh. They do help out, but they aren't game-changing, except for maybe one of them. His secondary skill, Kongming Lantern, turns every enemy that dies near Dianion into a lantern that grants you 1 extra gold. Compared to Barrisat's Avarice passive, it can generate way more gold, as it activates whenever an enemy dies near Dianion, doesn't have to actually be killed by him. It can give you a good chunk of change over a course of a level, letting you afford an extra tower skill or 2. It's not amazing, but it's still pretty solid. Lightning Strike and Divine Rain both aren't very significant either. Lightning Strike sends a chain of lightning to up to 6 enemies, dealing 50 magic damage to each one. On an 18-second cooldown, it does have a respectable DPS of 16, however, it's nothing more than just chip damage and doesn't do much else. Divine Rain will heal allies at a small AoE for 24 health per second for 5 seconds. It's not a ton of healing ever allies, but it still has a low cooldown of 15 seconds, so it just helps your allies out even more with all the stuns and damage Dianion will be providing. His final normal skill, Supreme Wave, is actually pretty good. It sends out a wave on the path, stunning all hit enemies for 4 seconds, which is a pretty hefty stun, especially considering the wave has a huge AoE. The AoE for this skill is also unique, allowing Dianion to use this skill to stun multiple enemies and multiple paths on some maps. All of these skills are okay, and they definitely help Dianion out, but they don't add up to the final part of Dianion I still need to discuss. Son of the Storm is outright one of the best hero spells in the entire series. It also has the highest DPS of any skill/hero spell in the series. Son of the Storm is a placeable turret that is invincible and can't be targeted, and will last indefinitely until they fire all of their shots, or one will expire if more than 10 are placed. At max level, they have 15 shots, and each of these shots deals 120 to 180 magic damage each. It sounds like a lot, because it is. Because of their low 42-second cooldown with the Ultimate Power Star upgrade, they have a whopping 70 magic DPS. The sun staying still, definitely, is also a good trait, as it means each one is rarely wasted, and will still be able to attack enemies way after it's placed. This also gives Dianion a global presence, as now he's able to defend 2 lanes super well. They only have some slight weaknesses, being that they can waste their shots on weaker enemies and can overkill if multiple of them are in the same area. But these are just slight weaknesses that are made up for with just good placement. This hero spell also makes Dianion one of the best heroes for dealing with the War and Drum Elephants in the Hammerhold campaign, with Dianion already being one of the best heroes for that DLC. Dianion has some of the highest DPS in the series, and is able to support his allies fairly well. Now let's go over his playstyle. Dianion, contrary to how he seems, wants to be constantly moving around the map and attacking enemies instead of being put in just one place. Because of his innate ability to basic attack while moving, his slow move speed is almost completely made up for. This means that unlike most heroes, he's able to maintain his high DPS throughout the entire level when you micro him around the map. This makes Dianion probably the most micro-heavy flying hero in the series, but gives you huge reward from it. The only normal skill of Dianion's you would want to micro is Supreme Wave, which gives a huge AoE stun, but even then, it takes lower priority than his basic attack. Same goes to Divine Rain and Lightning Strike. They're both pretty negligible skills, and while they do both add damage and support, it's not enough to justify using them. The other half of his micro comes from using Son of the Storm effectively. Because of its low cooldown, It's one of the few hero spells that you can't necessarily waste. Leaving it when it's available is a detriment, however, you gain by placing it. Placing it against high HP targets like elephants or high sorcerers is key, but also using it as a way to cover 2 lanes at once is important. It's against Dianian, the global presence that makes him one of the best in KRV. Because of how divided up its damage is, it's easily able to deal with a lane with minimally upgraded towers. Weak enemies get killed, and strong enemies get shredded, so overall it's an amazing hero spell. Moving Dianian around constantly is key to make best use of his basic attacks, damage, and stun, and placing his hero spell down to handle lanes or kill huge enemies is vital to make sure that he's insanely effective. Now, while I have been glazing Dianian up and down, I do have to speak about a few of his weaknesses. First and foremost, Dianian does purely magic damage. This means that magic-resistant enemies, like Draugrs, will take very little damage from Dianian overall. This also extends into another one of his weaknesses, being hordes of enemies. While he is able to attack and stun up to 4 enemies at a time, it usually isn't enough to deal with them completely. He deals no AoE damage, a problem that no other flying hero in the series has, but because he's in KRV, this weakness is slightly alleviated, and Supreme Wave does help out with crowds. His final weakness is his damage, as overall it still comes out quite slow. It means he won't be able to deal with enemies as immediately as other heroes, but with the correct micro, he's still able to help shred through enemies. For my final comments on Dianian, I believe Dianian is easily one of the best heroes in Vengeance, and an S-tier hero for every hero in the series. His unique basic attack, insane hero spell, good supportive skills, and overall high damage cement Dianian is one of the best heroes in the series. Now, while I'm not planning on making a hero tier list video for a couple of months at least, I will say that for me, Dianian is easily one of the top 10 best heroes in the series, and cements his place as being the 8th best out of 61 heroes. 8 out of 73 if you count the heroes coming in Kingdom Rush Alliance. Speaking of which, I've been fortunate enough to beta test Kingdom Rush Alliance, so on release I'll have a good understanding of the game and its balance. So I have 2 videos I plan on doing when it releases, a hero tier list and a tower tier list. And then I'll see what I want to make. But until then, feel free to comment or ping me on Discord with any suggestions for future video ideas. Anyways, have a good day, and I'll see y'all later. Oh yeah, post-recording Vinny here. I completely forgot to put this in my script, but big thanks to BHYT on Discord for helping me out with this whole thing. He was the one who, like, I guess, encouraged me to do this. Or like it inspired me to make this video. He's been harping on me to rank Dianian highly recently, and I was like, you know what, I'll test him out more. Then I did, and I'm like, yeah, he's actually very good. But yeah, big shout out to him, I guess, and shout out to him for this fucking clip. See ya.